What's up, guys? It's Josh Lau and Nathan Crawford here. Back. It is January 17th, 2023. The first week of ProQuest Season 3 has concluded. It is, a couple days after. We kind of wanted to record this video a little bit earlier, but, we were tired and then we had things to do. So, we're jamming it out on Tuesday here. So we both had a pretty successful weekend. I won one of the ProQuests in Georgia, and Nathan took down one of them in Alabama. And we're going to be talking about our experiences at the tournaments that we went to, as well as talking about the metagame. But before we do that, for those of you who have been Patreon subscribers or just paying attention to the YouTubes, we have on our Patreon, we have these cheat sheet cards. They are available for Dorinthia and Icelander, and Nathan's hard at work making one set for Briar. We have Fi in the works as well, and Oldhim as well. These basically, this is the exact list and the exact sideboard guide I used to win the tournament, and Nathan is going to make his for Briar too. So
that's it.
If you want to get all the secret sauce, we're going to show you our deck lists. But if you want the sideboard guide as well, with we literally tell you how to sideboard, whether to go first or second, what equipment to play, and we write a little blurb about every single matchup in the game. Go check out TheCardGuyz Patreon. And yeah, we have all the guides there. And we're going to try to get those done ASAP, so you will have them for this weekend as well. All right, so let's just jump into it. Saturday was your son's birthday, so you didn't actually go to one.
Yep.
But wifey vetoed that. So
got shut down hard.
Yeah. So I took my ass to the across the state line into Georgia. And I showed up at Gigabytes. I've actually never been there before. Very, very interesting LGS. It's pretty large LGS with a lot of table space and stuff like that. Anyways, 37 people showed up for that event, and all right, I'm going to tell you. I kind of have some notes here. I'm just going to talk about the. I guess I'll first talk about the deck list that I brought. So I'm going to pull it up and post edit for you guys here. So this is actually what I've been running for the last month and a half or so. I haven't really made any changes to it. It took me quite a while to get to this exact list. The core of this list was based on NXI's Dynasty list. But there was 8, 9, 10 cards that I didn't quite agree with him on, and I changed them out. As you can see, this is a very heavy Dawnblade focused deck. It is a deck that runs a few attack actions, but overall, and it's got a few spicy cards like Pummel, Pursuit of Knowledge, Heart of Fendel, and stuff like that. But overall, not the most complicated deck list. If you do want to, I did a whole breakdown of the deck list. I talked for an hour about everything. So if you want to go watch, if you want to know more about my deck list, go watch that. If you want to learn more about all 17 matchups for Dorinthia, I also made a video about that. Go watch that. Anyways, so this is same deck list that I made the video about, card for card, no changes. I was a little bit unsure of what to expect, given that the Atlanta area is not where I have armories, and my teammates didn't really tell me too much about what was going on there either. I didn't really ask them, but yeah, so I kind of went into this blind. I was like, all right, we're just going to bring a general deck list and go from there. So round one, I get paired into Dash. This was actually perhaps my youngest opponent ever. He was actually the head judge's kid. And so this was actually created a very, very interesting mind game that I had to think about. So I'll kind of bounce some ideas off you, Nathan. All right. So let's say you're playing Dory, and you sit down, and you're playing against a very young guy, 9 or 10,
Wow.
maybe 11,
Wow.
somewhere around there, right? Okay.
Yep.
So you sit down against a Dash player that is very, very young. What are you putting him on? Which style of Dash are you putting him on?
Oh, he's just gonna go hard boost, like
Right.
hard boost.
Yeah, that's
right.
my initial thought too. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
kids are, when I was a kid, I was not patient. I was not gonna load, block, set up
Right.
purifiers and stuff. I was like, this guy's gonna boost aggro into me, right?
Unmovables.
Yep.
Non-unmovables.
And so I was like, all right. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sideboard, for that, right? And then he pulls out his own his own sideboard nodes, and I'm like, oh, all right, this guy might be like really prepared, right? And he was like, oh geez, maybe this kid actually is like a prodigy or something, or he wasn't bad at all. Like, just if you're watching this, you're a very pleasant opponent, you're gonna go for our kid. But I was like, this guy's really prepared, right? And I was like, his dad is the head judge, so he could be really, really hardcore player, right? I was like, maybe he is control dash, right? And so I was like, and I was just thinking. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stick to my sideboard notes, which says you sideboard assuming they're control dash, right?
Yep.
Because in case it's like mecha dash, that also covers it as well, right? So I was like, all right, we're just gonna follow the sideboard guide. We're just gonna do it like that. And he flips over his equipment, and I'm like, hyperdriver? I'm like, uh-oh. Is this a mechanoid dash? I was like, but then I see he's not running Visitronic on the head. So I was like, okay, okay. And then he's running I think he was running Hanabi Blaster as well.
Right.
So
That's
I was like,
the
okay.
Arsenal pass list. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is probably very, very aggressive. And it's a hyperdriver list. So I was like, okay, I think I remember something about that from Arsenal Pass, right? And so the game just goes on, and Dorinthia actually deals pretty well with that style of dash because the snowball from the counters is just too much. He got me down to single digit life, but the Domblade counters are just too much. But yeah, that was a very just interesting like mind game type of thing. I was just like,
absolutely.
It's like what level? Because if you don't know your opponent, it's unsure like what level they're playing at, right? So that was fun, nonetheless. I'm sure I'll be seeing him around more. He said he's been playing for like a year and a half. So, and when you're that young and you're already that good, like we'll probably see him. He could be the next Brody Spurlock or something. We'll see.
Right.
All right, round 2 I played against Phi. I don't really remember much about this game. In general, against Phi, the Dorinthia has a pretty pleasant time against Phi. You just block very well, and Phi can't really deal with your pressure. You just have to pick your spots correctly. Round 3 I play against Justin's Kano. So I only run one Oasis in my deck, and I only run AB1. And
you had it.
No, I did not have it actually,
okay.
But it was just. But he was running a little bit different Kano list than normal. He was running much more chip damage, rather than focusing on the Ragamuffins combo, right? So it was just basically no blocks from both of us, and then eventually I got there with like exact lethal, and then I think he like misplayed something he told me about. So that was just so happens that I got that one. Round 4. All right, so this is actually where the meat and potatoes actually starts here. I play against Dromai. There's only one Dromai in the whole room. And I was like, all right, well, I really don't want to play against Dromai. And here, I think I played it a little bit wrong because I assumed sideboarding decisions from him. Which I kind of, I talk a lot about adapting to your opponent, right? That's why I play more mid-rangey patiently. I feel out my opponent. Right. I figured out how he likes to play Dromai, but I kind of figured it out a little too late. And there was just too many dragons on the board, and eventually I did have a big play. I went for like a triple hit combo and kind of broke through, took tempo, but I didn't actually build up enough Dawn Blade counters to actually win the game from there. And I think I got him pretty low, but it's really, really, really tough. That matchup is really, 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 really tough, actually. I'd actually rather play against an old him than a Drobai.
Yep.
But yeah, so I lost that one, actually. But I did learn a lot about how my opponent likes to play, and that helped a lot because I played him in the quarterfinals. All right, round 5, I played against Dash. This was, again, a very aggressively slanted Dash. Again, I don't really remember much. There were so many games this weekend. But we took that one down. Round 6, basically everybody at the top tables had already played the first seed and lost. So I got like mega paired up. I was like, why am I at table 1? Even though I've lost a game so early, or in round 4. So I played against Icelander. So I played against the number 1 seed for round 6, and I already get off to a very, very bad start because I don't play my Iron Song Pride on turn 0 for some reason.
What?
I was so tired for some reason. Like I pitched Iron Song Pride for AB, like pitch stacked it, and I was like, I was just like on a little bit of tilt the whole game. But yeah, I figured out again because we already knew that like we were locked for top 8, so I was like taking this as like a, well, if I have to play you again, I'm gonna try to figure out how you play, right? And this was a game where I just didn't have the right. I never got a snowball with my counters. Because I pitched a Pride to the bottom. I didn't see my Prides very quickly, so that was kind of a sad day for me there. But anyways, eventually I lost that game. I almost got him route for game, but he had I think he had a D react or something. He survived at 1, and then I drew a hand that couldn't pressure sufficiently, and I got him off an Arsenal with my route, but eventually he was able to Arsenal a card and get me because I only have AB1.
Right.
Okay, anyways, 4-2, went into the top 8, 5th seed, and my punishment for screwing up my game against Icelander is it paired me into 4th seed, which was Dromai.
Nice.
Which I'm like, all right, this is my punishment for screwing up my round 6 game. All right, so this one is actually much more of a different game. This is all the adaptations that I had from the round 4 I implemented in this game, and basically I farmed a lot of dragons, got a lot of counters on my weapons, and there were many times where I had to be very, very, very disciplined because it was extremely obvious he had a sink below in Arsenal, and then I counted his armor. He had Crown of Providence, the Flamescale Furnace, and he had an Iron Rot Gauntlet, right? So that's 5 block there, 4 from the Arsenal, that's 9, 4 cards in hand. He could block 20-21 easily, right? And so there was a hand where I had 18 damage. My weapon was already at +6, right? And my hand could pump to 18, and I was like, I can't swing at him.
Get there.
I can't swing at him. And that was one of those where it's like, do I just take a chance? He has a sigil. And I checked his graveyard. I was like, this guy, based on how he played in round 4, he took out all his 2 blocks, and I only saw one of his sigils as well, so I was like, maybe even cut sigils as well. And I was like, making sure he started with 60 cards and all that. And eventually I was like, okay, just have to be disciplined. We just have to send 9 damage at this 3 health dragon. So be it, right? And eventually I was able to, put a lot of pressure on his life total, and the Dawn Blade was just too big, right? And I got there, right? And I think that's just what you have to do in that matchup in general, is just farm dragons as best as you can. It's a tough matchup. So I go into the semifinals mentally drained. And I have to play against the Icelander, who is, undefeated at this point. And this time I was like, all right, not going to forget my Iron Song Prides. And I actually got 2 of them out pretty quickly, and they stayed there the whole game, and they were a thorn in his side the whole game.
There you
go. There's massive differences between 4 and 5. and there's obviously massive differences between 3 and 4. And as soon as you get their armor, you can start doing some really, really good, interesting plays with spoils of war and stuff like that. And I just always made sure that I was coming in for at least 7 when he had no armor, because without Sink Below, he has to give me 3 cards, right? And eventually we got there. Took a while, but we eventually got there. That game was actually fairly smooth, even though it looked a little. Even though I had to play it really, really slowly, but we still got there. Grand finals, we decided to. Andrew Lorenz and I just were like, we want to go have Korean barbecue. Let's just split this. We're both qualified for the Pro Tour anyways through experience, so we're just like, all right, we'll just split this. We'll give Dory some L points, and we'll move on with life. And so that's that. All right, so the next day, you get the approval of your wife to go to a event. What happens at your event? Let's take a look at your list first. Let's quickly take a look at that.
Yep. So I guess while you're pulling that up, all the card guys were over in Georgia, taking those down, and so I was the only one that was in Alabama at the time. So I was holding down the western flank, if you will.
Yep.
And so yeah, the list. Nothing too crazy. I know the first thing on everybody's mind is, did I run regular Briar or Royal? I chose against Royal. I went with just regular 0 for 4 Briar. Some interesting changes. I've been on Yellow Rabble for a while. I think
Natural Go Again, right?
Yep, Natural Go Again. It hedges against hypothermia. The single line that won me the tournament this weekend was blue card, red Earthlore Surge, Rabble, doesn't matter if it's red or yellow, Rosetta. That 3-card rotation, if it's the red one and it hits, it's 13 for 3 cards. And even if it misses, it's 11 for 3, which most people can't do. That's like Scar for Scar Wounded Bull level. That would be 12. So it's either just above or just below. But worst, and it'll average probably to around, I don't know, 12 and a half. If you averaged out the odds.
Yeah,
so
that's very, very similar to how, well, not with Rabble, obviously, but with cards like from Tales of Aria Limited. That play pattern was also very, very good. Anytime you got the Rosetta to turn on, with just a couple cards was a winning line in that meta.
Yep, and then also another reason why I included Red Earthlore Surge is a hedge against Icelander. I know a lot of people are going to be like, why would you? How is an expensive non-attack good against Icelander? Well, the answer is nobody cares about Hypo or Blizzard when your Snatch is coming in for 9. Is the short answer. That's just how it is. So it's a way to. The way that I look at that is it's a hedge against the disruption on the go again. If I can front load as much damage on my on-hit effect and throw it up front, sure, I'm giving him more information, but I'm okay with that. If he shuts it down, if he blizzards me and he shuts me down, all that blizzard is doing is blocking 4 for the Rosetta. Whereas if I had a bunch of attacks and tried to go 4-4-4-4, it blocks upwards of 12 depending on the hand. So
yeah, this strategy is a strategy implemented by many heroes actually, if they can do it. The very, very early Dorinthia builds against Icelander tried to put their damage. Like either you were playing like the chonky Dorinthia, throwing a giant attack at them, saying, "I don't care about your disruption," or having a lot of attack reactions to dump it onto the first attack, not relying so heavily on the second attack. If you get it, it's gravy. It's nice.
Right. Other than that, the only spicy thing that I had was 2 Rites of Replenishment, which is a 2-card anti-fatigue loop. A lot of people are gonna probably say, why is that better than Evergreen? And the answer to that is, if you're playing against a very good Oldhim, your Evergreen loop is very easy to interrupt an Evergreen loop with Ice React, because you have to play it from Arsenal. So you have to pitch a blue, play one of the Evergreens. You probably had a block with a card before that. And so now all you have is that evergreen that you're trying to put in Arsenal to create the loop, and then it gets ice reacted and you're shut down. Whereas Rites of Replenishment is a fuse mechanic, so they can or ice react the earth card that I fused with. It doesn't matter, and it blocks 3, and it costs 2. So if you have Frostbite, it doesn't cost an extra card.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. So just tell us about how the tournament went. Where was it at? And
Yep. So
how
it was
did it
in the
go?
Huntsville, Alabama area. JC House of Cards. Great location. Shout out to the owners. It was great prize support. I think it was $320 in store credit for first place. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I've seen so many things on Twitter of like people getting like 1 pack for top 8 or something is like additional prize support. So like, shout out to JC House of Cards because they did a great job.
Yep. And big shout out to Showcase Games and Gigabytes as well. They also did the prize support really well, and it's very obvious that the owners are very, very passionate about the game as well. So it's great to see.
So kicking into it, it was a 32-person ProQuest. So we played 5 rounds. They capped it at 32.
Exactly 5 rounds. Okay.
Well, there was 35 players, and unfortunately, 3 players did not get to play because we were capped out due to the time that they closed. They couldn't fit in that extra round, so we had to cap it at 5 rounds. So round 1 was Arachne. That one was a little free, not because my opponent was bad. It's a guy that I've played before. It's a guy that I've lost against. He kind of built this deck on a whim, like 2 nights ago before the tournament, and was just kind of like, he knew he couldn't go to Baltimore, so he was just kind of there to have a good time kind of thing. And it was like his way of testing. So it was like an untested deck, if you will. Straightforward for Arachne. I just saved my armor for the leave no witness card, and you just spike damage them out if they tried to drag the game on too long. And also Rites of Replenishment, you can't get decked out. So round 2 was Fi, another local player that I've played against, Kyle. He was running Fi, and he decided to go the Mask of Momentum route. I'm not sure if that is correct or wrong. I have no idea. All that I know is that playing into me, I prefer to play against Mask of Momentum because I play Briar in a more mid-rangey style. I enjoy blocking with Briar because I read both of her effects on her hero card, not just one. And so that's just... Mask of Momentum fits into my playstyle, whereas Lynx forces me to play more aggressively, which is more outside my comfort zone. So I don't know if that's right or wrong. I just prefer to play against Mask. And I played 2 CNCs that had Go Again that game, and that usually gets there. So, there was
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, CNC overperformed the whole weekend. Just an idea for our meta breakdown: 32 people. I think there was like 12 fives. It was unbelievable.
Over in Georgia was a bit more balanced over there. But okay, 12 fives over there. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, there was a lot. And then round 3 was Oldham. It was a really strong player in the Huntsville area, and the game was. It was one of the strangest Oldham games I've played because we both had terrible hands for the first probably 5 or 6 turns. The hands were so bad that he wasn't going for fatigue, but I was worried about getting fatigued because I was like, he would present some like a blue disable is like the most threatening thing he could throw at me because his hands weren't lining up, and I was like, oh, that's good. I got an embodiment. I'll rip like a Force of Nature and cover it up. I look at my hand, it's like 3 lightning surges and like a rabble, and I'm just like, oh god, So I have to like block with those, and I was worried about blocking with my threats and getting decked out even with the rights. So I ended up slowing the game down. There was one point where he took a lot of damage to make a move while I had Sink Below an Arsenal, and I was able to shut down or make his play inefficient, which gave me the breathing room on the the fatigue plan, which allowed me to set up just one channel, and that was enough to clean it up.
Yeah, and oftentimes when you play against a strong player, just having one single turn where you make their turn very inefficient can often win you the game. That's why, like, I've talked about how, like, there's 18 D-React Ultims that exist, right?
Yep.
5 D-Reacts against Doria is already plenty if you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
So you just have to make a few of their turns inefficient, and it seems like you were able to do that with your sync blow. So
Yep. Other than that, round 4 was guess it, another 5, because why not? This one was running links. Much closer game.
This
it was
is round
actually
4, right? Not 5.
Yeah, 4. Round 4. Sorry. And we played our match. The game state was my last leg, and I had a force of nature with I had a channel in play, and I had a force of nature, but I only had one attack, which is, if you're a Briar player, you never play the force of nature in that situation.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10 it's gonna get blocked, and then there's like you just wasted a whole card on
+1.
Put it, yeah, it's just not where you want to be when that could have blocked for 4. However, I looked at the game state and I said, this is my only out. I have to he has to let it hit,
and you have to draw an attack.
And I have to draw an attack. And so he let it hit, and I ripped a blue Autumn's Touch. And luckily, I had another blue Autumn's Touch in my hand as my last card. So I was like, well, let's turn, let's turn it into Lemonade. And we went Autumn's Touch for 8, draw a card on hit with no go again. And he was at 7 life, and he blocked with Shoot Go and went to 1. So I said, all right, trigger draw. I ripped a Sonata off the top and put it in Arsenal. And then I was at 3, maybe 4 life, and he has a whole hand. He's about to go in.
Yep.
And I got like 2 armor left or something. And so I just blocked my whole hand, and I'm at 2. And I look at him, I say, all right, we're going to make this a show. And I told all the people around me, I was like, all right, let's go. Y'all ready to see something cool? He's at 1. He doesn't have AB. Let's go. I'll flip it over. And then we do the whole theatrical thing, and it was Earthlore Surge, Scar, and I didn't even need the 3rd card.
There
so,
you go. Yep.
And
then he asked you target.
Yeah. So we were able to close that. First game I ever finished without a card in hand. That's never happened before. So,
interesting.
Close that one out, and then round 5 was guess. Another 5. Yep. And so this was the last 2 undefeateds, and basically I played a CNC when he had an Art of War in hand and Arsenal, and it messed his whole thing up. And because we both said after the game, we were like, if I didn't play a CNC right then, I just lost, because there's no way that you come back from that. But at the CNC bought me some time, and I was able to put a channel out, and I had another channel in Arsenal. But I had the line where I had multiple blues in hand, and I could have Tome of Harvested it away, because I only had 1 attack in hand, which is, once again, lackluster. And so I was like, all right, let's tome and get like 2 more attacks and then just go in, because I still had snaps. We were good. And so I played the Tome of Harvest, ripped 3 cards. It was Bramble, Earthlore. I said, oh no. So I looked at him.
All in on 1 attack, I guess.
Yeah, and this was a local guy that we're buddies, and we were just having a good time. And I looked at him. I said, "What's the biggest scar you've ever seen?" He goes, "That's a very specific question." I was like, "Tell me." He goes, "I don't know, probably like 13, 14." I said, "Hang on a second." I said, Bramble Fuse, pitch making an embodiment. Pitch a blue, Earthlore red, Scar for 20. And then that got it,
Yeah, attacking for 20 is always a good feeling here.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
with a Rosetta on the end to make it even
All right.
better. So fun
So,
game. We cleaned up Swiss 5-0.
yep. So that puts
And
you first seed into top 8, obviously.
yep.
And how was the top 8 for you?
Round 6 was Icelander. I was like, my first thought through my head was I went through all those matches just to lose my first round in top 8. And I was like, oh no. But Red Earthor Surge is just it puts in so much work in that matchup, and I just grinded it out. I played small ball. I'll play AB3 in my list, so I'm like, if you disrupt me, you're not getting waning moon damage in. I'm not going to pay for the frostbite and make sure I can minimize the damage on that end. Was able to get that one. Nothing
we
exciting really happened, or
we've seen some debate between AB1, AB2, AB3 for Briar against Icelander. Is there a consensus on that these days?
yeah. So this is the idea on that. Normally, if you're an aggro deck, I don't think it's correct to play anything more than AB1.
Right.
Okay. The difference for Briar is you have blues you do not need for most of your lines, and also you have to keep in mind that Briar is the only hero that Icelander most turns gets priority before Briar does because of the embodiment.
Right.
So if you have a Scar or whatever, and you want your fire, or any other aggro deck, and you just want to play it out, Briar doesn't get that luxury. We have to pay for that frostbite that they're going to generate and then play it out. So now you just have 2 resources just sitting there doing nothing. And if the AB allows you to convert that into value in some turns, not all turns, but some turns.
And one of the nice things is that you have a equipment that has extra utility, not just AB.
Correct. Vex and Quillhand flips the script on, oh, you're giving up, armor to run the AB. Well, in Vexing slot, we're not. The only one that actually has an hard opportunity cost to it is the boots. Because you are giving up an action point to do so. But I can't tell you how many times I've been hypoed on snaps. So it never feels good.
Yeah, it's worse when Bolters gets
yeah.
You're like, oh man. I was like,
every time.
Yeah. They have it every time. All right. So seems like you won the round 6 game against Icelander, and then round 7.
Round 7 was Dromai. This was another local guy, funny. We play games fairly often. We were cracking up, having a good time, and he flipped over. I hope I'm not spilling his tech that he was trying to hide. So the new craze is you run Crown of Dominion for the gold token,
right?
And then if they go first, then you can pitch, draw, and like make a bunch of ash, basically.
Yeah, I've seen them starts with 6. I've seen Royal Dromai start with 6. Yeah.
He runs Helios Miter and Constructed. And then that way you can do the same play on your opponent's turn.
Okay. Assuming that they don't put in a lot of pressure on you though, right?
Correct. That's the risk, right? So if it's like the Icelander matchup and they like play an Insidious Chill or something, right? They don't have an action point.
Yes.
There's 0 opportunity cost associated with that play. He flipped it over, and I looked at it and I said, I chose to go first because I didn't want him to make a bunch of ash. I said, 9 times out of 10, I pitch a bunch of clunky reds, make a rune chant or whatever, and I just said, no, pass priority. And then he goes, oh man. He was hoping I'd throw a little something or do something inefficient and then cash in and start the game with a bunch of ash and then get a board state quickly. Thought that was interesting and almost lost that game. It was actually very close. He spit out, I want to say it was 4 0-cost dragons in 1 turn. It got very scary very quick. But we ended up.
Dromai's a tough matchup.
Yeah, it's never free. Never free. And the last round, round 8, was Oldham, the same Oldham that I played before. We decided to split though. So he's in college and his finals is around that time. So we just gave Briar some LL points, even though she definitely doesn't need any for sure. And yeah, we closed it out.
All right. Yep. All right. So we have 2 success stories here. So let's talk about the third event, which is so I won on Saturday. So I'm like, you know what? Do I run it back on Sunday or do I play my other love? And I was like, you know what? I had a Lumina Go Boomina shirt on. I don't have it now, but you know, if you want to order a Lumina Go Boomina shirt, we do have those available too. Card Culture apparel. So I was like, you know what? I gotta at least try to see. I was like, this is probably a bad idea. Given the metagame I saw, I was like, this is probably a bad idea, but we're gonna try it, right?
Right.
So we bring Bolton, good old Lumina Go Boomina, to the, again, 37-person Pro Quest at Showcase Games. So I'll kind of pull up that list for you guys now. This is the list, very, very, very close to my Worlds list. Obviously, I just updated it with Spirit of Arena. You know, this is a fairly stock list. The only things that are a little bit different is, you know, I know a lot of people don't run E-Strike. E-Strike's a little bit of a different card there. So the reasoning behind that is, so in general, you want all your cards to be light cards. So if it's not a light card, it has to be like really, really good, right? And E-Strike is one of those really, really good cards, because what can often happen is you go for your double Lumina combo. You know, you deal some life to them, you get some cards in your soul, but you don't kill them. This is a very common occurrence. And then if you had to use your Snapdragons to do your combo, it's very possible you draw something like Valiant Thrust, Soul Shield, Blue Express Lightning, Blue Engulfing Light, and then you can't do anything, right? Enlightened Strike allows you to turn the immediate turn right after your combo into something where you're actually utilizing your whole hand, which is really important.
Right.
And of note, you can, if you have extra soul, you can go E-Strike 7. 7 is higher than 5. You can give it go again, right? Excellent card, good synergy. If you didn't use your Snapdragons, you can always go E-Strike draw into Snapdragons is also decent. Yeah, it's a good card, and I think it's
also
important.
One point on the E-Strike, it keeps threat density in the deck because it's a high threat density card with worth 7 damage that cannot go into soul off of Lumina. So if you do hit it on the Lumina on hit, it keeps it in the deck, and that way, if anybody's on like that fatigue, draw it out kind of game plan, it really just keeps that threat density in there.
Yep, exactly. And you know, it blocks for 3, so it does its job. Anyways, so again, if you want to know more about that list, I did a whole deck tech guide. I made a lot of content on Bolton and as well as Dorinthia, so check out the channel, you'll find it there. All right, so round 1, I play against Brother Christian, and this actually just shows how strong Bolton is in Defy. He had 3 Art of Wars in 4 turns, and I still won the game pretty comfortably.
Jeez.
The deck wants to block all the time anyways, so it's and the main thing is that you heal a lot, and so the tech that I've been using against Fi is I started to go second now, mainly because they're never going to block, basically. They know they're on a clock, right? So you basically will force them to start the game at like 34. And that's a big, big difference, 40 and 34, right? Even though they might get 1 extra big turn against you, just having the ability to immediately threaten their life, or their life on the combo turn, is really, really important, because if you can rip 1 or 2 cards from them, there's no way they kill you from 17 with 4 cards. Like, they might take you down to like 4 or 5, but then you have your whole hand to hit them back. Just
Right.
think a turn cycle ahead. You obviously get there generally. So yeah, round
Right.
1, easy win against Fi. Round 2, I play against Icelander. I think I made a mistake here. I won the dice roll, and I was like, you know what?
Don't do it. You didn't go second, did you?
I was like, I think I have to go second just to.
Nope.
I have to kind of high roll here, right? I need him to have a really, really bad turn 0, and then I
Yep.
start with tempo and try to win from there. He drops Insidious Chill on turn 0, and
Of course.
that's you can't really win from there. This is actually a matchup where I've been thinking more about Jubil. I actually think Jubil might just be better than Raiden, mainly because having just the fact that you actually have a weapon that actually deals damage by itself is really, really important. It turns
Right.
your worst hands into something, and having to pay 1 is kind of like getting refunded on the Arcane Barrier anyways, right? So I think actually I might look at that a little bit more closely. I think that's actually decent. The only downside of that is that it makes it almost impossible to turn Helm of the Sharp Eye on, but you're not playing Helm of the Sharp Eye against them in that matchup. So yeah, I think overall Jubil is probably the better play here, and that's something I'll have to investigate more. But yeah, we lose pretty badly against Icelander. That's just how it goes. Anybody that's played Bolden enough knows that Icelander is a absolute nightmare. Round 3, we get to play against another Icelander. This Icelander is different though. This Icelander is a pure arcane damage Icelander, and it was a little bit closer because that's actually a little bit less efficient of a deck. But it was very difficult to find suitable hands just to attack with. That matchup is so dependent on having 2 Via the Vanguards in a pretty quick manner, and if you can't find them quickly enough, it's just rough. So we already won 2, and this is feels bad here.
Well, that's a very important note that you just said. So you said that the arcane one was a better matchup because it's less efficient. So if you're an Icelander player and you're like on the fence of like whether Bull Lander or regular Icelander is better, the guy that runs a bunch of yellows in his deck just said that the pure arcane one is worse. So if that doesn't tell you which one's better, there's your answer.
And his whole deck blocks for 3, so yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yep,
Exactly.
yep. Round 4, I play against Oldhim, and it's going really badly. He is very aggressive on Oldhim. I get down a potion, I get down Spirit of Arena, but I'm taking a ton of damage. He blows up my arsenal, I get my combo reset, and eventually I just realize I just gotta go for a baby combo and pray. And I start the combo with Bolt to Courage without a pump, and he just lets it hit.
Oh,
I'm like, all right, we're gonna snap it. And
thrust off the rip.
No, I only had 1 combo piece in Arsenal. I did not have a combo
you drew
piece
the
in my
other
hand.
one.
And I drew into the combo, and I was like, I don't deserve to win this game. I did not deserve to win this game, but I was like, all right, we're gonna play it out.
No.
So, we swing the saber, we pop Gallantry, pop Courage, swing the saber, flash in the Luminas, and then proceed to combo with all the Luminas, and eventually actually it comes down to because it took me so long to get to this state, right? Because I got my arsenal blown up. I was actually getting really low on deck, and I had to rely on the 3rd Lumina, which it wasn't destroyed by CNC, it was put onto the bottom by Disable. So eventually it came back up, and I had to use that to actually win the game so the Spirit Arena got major value in that game. I got to play all 3 Luminas at instant speed. And that was actually the saving grace there, is because I didn't have a take flight on the very final turn. I just had a, engulfing light or whatever. And I had to use the Lumina to get my action point back. And, barely got there with four sword attacks there. This is also why, if you could save your E-Pot, you want to save your E-Pot because it allows you to do... Because oftentimes if you don't have enough... You need an extra card to swing 4 times, right? So if you have E-Pot, you could just have a single blue or a yellow, and then you could swing with your Lumina 4 times. But yeah, so we got there. We didn't deserve to win it, but
We take those.
we take it. I mean, yeah. All right. Round 5, I play against the Dorinthia, and this was actually kind of interesting because
You know the deck better than them, so you
I
win.
sit down. I don't know who this guy is, right? But I get a sense he knows who I am.
Yep.
And you know,
Did he pull out your notes?
no, he didn't. I don't think so. But he told me after the game, like he based his list kind of on my list, right? And
Yeah.
you know, during the game, I was just like calculating out loud to him, and I could see on his face, he's like, "Oh my god, this guy knows exactly what I'm doing."
Yeah,
Like, it could be 3, it could be 4 if it's this and this. Could be 5 if it's this.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, it's probably not 5. And then and eventually, like, it was a very entertaining game for both of us, I think. But yeah, so it was just very funny because he sat down. I didn't know what he was playing. I was like, I'm playing Bolton. What are you playing? And he's like, I'm playing Dory. I'm like, oh, he knows who I am.
Not happy.
Yeah. Don't bring Dory against me. That's a bad choice. But yeah, so Bolton against Dory. I think if the Dory actually plays it properly, I think it's slightly Dory favored. But
Yep.
I think you know, if you can, he got quite a few counters on the weapon, but you know, I was able to think a few turns ahead and say, that's fine, I'll give you the counters, but I'll put you in lethal range where you have to give me your whole hand, you lose all your counters. So
Yep.
you know, that's pretty textbook play there, Bolton versus Dory. Right, and then round 6 we play against Dash. We play against, shout out to Alan Lau. We play against Alan Lau's list.
Yep.
And yeah, this is actually a really weird game because I have to go second because he won the dive roll. And I draw a hand with no charge cards.
Uh-oh.
So
Uh-oh.
turn 2 finishes. I have to E-strike 7 on my first turn. And I'm like, all right, we have no soul on turn 2. This is very weird. Because I also run the I run Helm of the Sharp Eye in that matchup, right? So I didn't even have Halo, right? So I have no soul. I find the combo pieces, but I have no soul, and I just have to wait. And eventually, because it looks like to Seb, it looked like I was trying to fatigue him.
Right.
So he like slowed down a lot. He's like, all right, I'm gonna set up a Tekla Pounder. I'm gonna set up a Tekla Core.
Yeah,
that gave me time to charge 2 or 3 cards, and then eventually I was able to combo him off there, right? So
right.
that looked kind of like a weird game, but it was fun. Anyways, 4-2, finished 12th out of 37. So yeah, 1 success, 1 failure. Oh well, what can you do? Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the metagame that we saw and our general thoughts on what we saw and what we think is going to be strong going forward.
Like I said earlier, there was so much fine in my area, but once again, when we talk about these pro quests, it's what you have to worry about is nobody's going to play too far out of their comfort pick. But if you're, say I'm a Briar player, but I also dabble in a little bit of Lexi, it's situations like the first weekend, right? You get a read and you're probably playing your next weekend somewhere relatively close. So you're going to see like a similar crowd there. Okay. If I had 14-5 show up out of 32 and I dabble in Lexi, there's no way I'm bringing Briar to the next one.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to get an invite, there's
Exactly.
that does not make sense. It worked once, but well, it worked that time. But like if I didn't win, then like I would be looking at Lexi and I'd bring that every time. So looking at that, not looking at the battle hardens, I would not be using that. Okay, ice is dominant. Got that. At the highest level, obviously decks that have more agency will do better. Cool, especially in an unknown meta. However, pro quests are not the highest level events. They just are not. So I
can tell you that because, you know, a single win is worth like 1.5 points and a single loss is worth like -5.
Yep. And so when looking at the meta, just look at your local area. And if you know your local area well and the players within it, kind of think of like, okay, what other decks do they play? Are they going to pivot to that kind of thing? And think in that manner. There's also the entire possibility that they're just going to run the same dang thing. That's just because people play what they want, right? But maybe you play the same deck, but your sideboard tech is different. Okay, maybe I don't need the Smashing Good Times because there was only 2 dash there. Let me put in CNC instead for the fives or whatever the case may be. So you don't have to necessarily change decks, but change your sideboard accordingly.
Mm. Another thing is, like, if you can identify that there's a few very strong players and you know what they're going to be on, you can obviously tailor make your deck a little bit more towards what they're playing. If you want. Again, I think if you just take a generalist list is also fine as well. Especially if you just want to get into the top 8 and, kind of roll the dice on the matchups.
Right.
All right. So, is there any standout decks that you kind of like? We've been on Twitter, we've been on Facebook, we've kind of heard the discourse, we've seen some general, we've seen globally what's been happening. Is there anything that's kind of surprised you?
Nothing.
It felt to me like there was a little bit more Dory than I thought.
But
like 20 to 30% higher than I thought, and I don't know why. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think she's a bad pick. I don't think she's a bad pick at all. But it just seemed like everybody was playing the deck that they thought would be the easiest way to get a win, like Fi, right? Like this, it's the minimal amount of work you have to do equals a win, right? Theoretically, would be a deck like Fi. Not saying that there's not any skill behind playing Fi. I'm not saying that. Playing 0 for 3s in a row is very difficult.
Yes.
But
you have to remember how to. You have to get 3 of them, and then you get a bonus. Buy 3, get 1 free, right?
It's like shopping at the Dollar Tree or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe now people realize, okay, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
I can't do that in a field where there's like 6 Oldhams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now people are gonna have to actually work for it. What that translates to, there's not a clue. All I can say is that if I was taking a deck to the next ProQuest, I still think the strategy is not to bring the answer, bring the question.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I did with the Briar deck. I took all the lightning presses out. I took all the electrifies that I had in before. Those things that are like, okay, I'm going to answer this exact question. The only thing in my deck that I said I'm going to answer a question was the 2 rights for anti-fatigue. Mm-hmm. That is in Smashing Good Time. But that, a 0 for 3 out of Arsenal is never bad in Briar. Because it's half Gogan as well. So whatever deck you decide to bring, make sure it is not, because we're still not solidified yet. Things will still, rotate a little bit. People will change up. So bringing an answer into something that may not actually be the answer may not be correct. So just bring something, bring Lexi, and just make sure it's the most disruptive list possible, and then make them have it. So just, I don't know if anybody watched the Battle Harden. I think his name's Naib. Ran a 73 card Lexi list with last ditch efforts, and he was fatiguing Oldhams with it. Go watch that video, make that list, and play that. That is, if you think about it, that's everything you want in a deck. It disrupts the crap out of all the aggro decks because you run red Arctic Incarcerations. But yet, if anybody you can beat fatigue. Like it's everything you want in a deck. Now there is a weakness in it. I'm not gonna do that to him and call him out. But that's a good answer at a local level of a deck that's very oppressive, and that's something I would look to bring. Week 2.
Lexi. I think we saw a little bit more Lexi than I thought of. We previously thought. Definitely on the up and up. And if Oldhim, who has ice, and Icelander, who has ice, is good, chances are if you have ice somewhere in your list, it's generally going to be pretty good.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I think we're getting close to an hour here, so we probably need to wrap this up. Um, you said there was a comment or something from one of our Patreons or Discord that you wanted to talk about.
Just real quick. So I was playing a game with one of our patrons this afternoon, and he made the comment that he was so just baffled that me and Josh walked in and won our first one in a format that seems, like the five mirrors, even Briar and Fi. It's like who gets the big card first kind of vibes, and it seems like there's a lot of variance. Um, and he was just amazed that we could walk in and just claim the first one basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I told that Josh while we were prepping for this video, and Josh goes, "That's exactly how it should be." And I was like, "Well, that's interesting. What's the thought on that?" And Josh said, "Well, if you looked at the elo of everybody that was there, not saying the elo is the perfect measurement by any means, not saying that, but it has to be at least a decent indicator."
Constructed.
Josh
elo,
said,
yep.
yeah, constructed elo.
Mm-hmm.
Josh said that the top two elo rated people at his ProQuest were in the finals.
Yep.
And I said, holy cow, that's funny, right? And I was like, well, what about my event? And I looked at the leaderboards the same way. Guess what? The top two elo people were in the finals, me and Jensen, right? And so we just real quick, back when players played in Monarch and Tales of Aria, the game of Flesh and Blood came down to who made only one mistake versus three mistakes.
Right.
And that was your margin of error, right? You could still make mistakes within a game and win. But because the game has grown, we have tools, we have Fabric, we have, Fabrary, we have all Talishar, we have all these tools that we can. We have cheat sheets. Yeah. I mean, there's so many tools that players have gotten efficient. We've gotten reps under our belts. The average level of a player has just dramatically increased, even at these ProQuest levels. And so all of these games are not coming down to multiple mistakes. They're coming down to one mistake, and it doesn't even have to be a big one. All it has to be is one or two life or one or two value. That means on the last damage cycle, the opponent has to block with one more card.
Yep.
It's that simple. That's what Flesh and Blood comes down to, is eking out one or 2 points of value. And then at the last cycle of the game, now you have to give me your last card instead of keeping one card and presenting something back and keeping the cycle going. Mm-hmm. And then you lose. And that's so a lot of people claim variance, but this is
this card game has very low variance.
Right. And it's amazing.
If you play against somebody that's significantly weaker or significantly stronger than you, it's not even going to be 90-10. It's going to be like 99-1. Because there's so many decisions that have to be made. There's so many opportunities to make the correct play or not make the correct play.
Yep.
That it, not just from a tactics point of view, which is turn to turn, even an overarching strategy is like, if I wanted to make the correct plays against Dory versus Dromai, that starts on turn 0 and it lasts the whole game. Like you got to do the correct decision again and again and again and again and again, right? Yep. And it, like Nathan said, if you make one mistake, oftentimes against good players, that's enough for them to capitalize on it. I don't know if any of you guys are big fans of fighting games. I don't play much fighting games because I'm just getting too old and I'm all that. But oftentimes, one single mistake can spiral the whole match out of control, right? You get whiff punished or you fail your combo or whatever, right? So, I've kind of got like that vibe from this game. Is like it's kind of like a fighting game too, right? It's one-on-one, right? So. But yeah, I think that is an interesting point that you brought up, and yeah, I think that skill can be learned and skill can be obtained as well. So you know, this is something that if you put enough reps into it, if you get a if you have the right group of people to help you, or the right coach or whatever, that could be a good way to do it. Speaking of that, we're gonna plug it again because we have started to pump out a lot of these. We have a lot of heroes cheat sheet cards with deck lists on our Patreon. You can go take a look there and see if that's something you want to do. I personally am not going to be traveling to any more ProQuests. I kind of decided this just based because my family's coming into town. So I'm not going to be traveling for the next 2 weeks. But if you are looking for coaching, I do offer coaching. And especially if you play Dory or Bolted, you probably get the most out of it. But I can obviously play other heroes, and I can help you with that as well. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, you can message me on Discord or on Twitter or whatever. Yeah, is there anything you want to talk about, Nathan, before we close?
No, that'll do it. That'll do it. Oh, the Goliath Gauntlet.
Oh yeah.
We're playing in it.
yeah. They invited us to play the Goliath Gauntlet number 2, Electric Boogaloo. And yeah, so there's a ton of really, really strong players there. Like half of the top 16 at Worlds is there, and I think they're gonna start broadcasting that on the 20th, so 6 p.m. Eastern, I believe. So watch out for that. I think they're gonna cast every single game from that tournament. Yeah, should be good. Obviously we can't discuss what happened in that tournament, but it'll be good. The Goliath Gauntlet 1 was very well produced, and there were some great games. So yeah. So I think that's gonna wrap us up. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, my friend, for the last hour. But I think we're gonna have to get out of here. All right, it's been Josh and Nathan with the Card Guys. Hope you're having a good day. See ya.
Take care, everybody.